here to share insights on the future of mindset. Please welcome Sharlene Lynch. Sharlene, thanks for
Hello,
joining us.
hello, and thanks for joining. I love this. So, Adelaide, South Australia. It's beautiful to connect with you today, and thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure. I used to travel down to South Australia in the early 2000s and I owned a clothing company. So I'd drive my van around the country and I would make it all the way down to South Australia because there was a big water skiing and wakeboarding event at Renmark. And so would drive down all the way to South Australia. But from Sydney, gee, it was such a long way, but a beautiful drive. I tell my kids that for fun in Australia, a weekend drive could be 10 or 12 hours in one direction. Where here, if we did 10 to 12 hours in Taiwan, we would circle the whole island a couple of times.
That's true. I love it. And even in the country, our neighbours can be 2 hours away, and that's completely normal.
Mm. What,
Mm.
two centimeters away here. As I look out my window today, my apartment building is built on an old monastery, on top of an old monastery. So it's a very sacred place. But there's six towers, and each tower's 15 stories high. And there's four apartments on each level. So I've got 325 neighbours looking in my window right now watching the podcast. So when we talk about close encounters, 2 centimetres,
I love it. I
but
love
it's
it.
quiet.
Proximity counts.
It's quiet. It's interesting that we can live in such close proximity, but you won't hear somebody sneeze.
Wow, the
It's
buildings must be built differently there than in Australia.
the people. It's the people who are built differently, because in Australia, when you and I would have grown up, they teach you that this is my personal space, and you put one arm out to the left and one out to the right, and you say this is my space. Where Taiwan, like this is our personal space, so we've got to get along in a confined environment. So people don't tend to blast their stereos or their TVs. I could be in my apartment block the whole day and I might hear somebody a chew and that's it. That's it. I wouldn't know anybody else is here.
I love it. I love it.
What what took you to South Australia? Were you born and bred in South Australia or did you
Yeah.
choose to live there?
Yeah, so born and bred in South Australia, but then my parents, who were both ministers of religion, decided that we would live in the States for 2 years while they did their Doctor of Theology. And yeah, so I got a chance to live there for 2 years. Fascinating, fascinating place to live. And I've been back many times to visit, but it wouldn't be a place to live. Lived in a couple of other spots, but yeah, came back to South Australia because it's home and it's like a big country town. Everybody, we say, they say there's 6 degrees of separation, but in Adelaide, there's 0.5 degrees of separation. So be careful what you do. They
Mm,
could be your cousin. So, yeah, everybody knows everyone if you ask enough questions. And I
mm,
like that it's slower here. It's not fast paced. And yeah, it's 20 minutes to the sea and 20 minutes to the hills. So it's not like Melbourne or Sydney where everything takes longer. And it's a beautiful place to live. So, yes, it's home. And this is where the grandchildren are. And look, in the environment that we live now, we can literally take our laptops and work from anywhere. So
mm,
it's nice. It's a lovely place to call home as a base.
mm. Remote's not remote anymore. When I was traveling around the country, we didn't have YouTube connection on our mobile phone. We were using, I don't know if you remember the telephone carrier 3 network. 3 was like the cheapest thing we could get, but you couldn't use the internet when you're out in these country towns. And those regions felt remote. We would go to the twin towns like Albury, Wodonga, in country Victoria, and it felt so remote. But with a good internet connection and technology today, it's not that remote. Like here in Taiwan, my clients pre-pandemic would ask questions like, how is it possible that you can do consulting on the internet? And I said, it's just like a telephone call. And they're like, well, how could you do consulting via telephone? I said, would it be the same as seeing you face to face? We'd be talking. And it was such a foreign concept, even at 2019. But then 2020 came along in the pandemic, and my clients are saying, could you not come to the office? Could you stay in Taiwan? Could we do it on video? And I say, absolutely. And one of them down in Victoria recently, they said, when are you coming to Australia next? I said, only when you call me in. And they said, oh, maybe we'll do it online.
Truth.
Remote's not remote like it used
It
to be.
it changed everything. So I was already working online since 2017, and so for me it was like just a couple of weeks of, oh, this is different. Let's just shift and change. And yeah, so a lot of my clients are wellness practitioners. They do energy work. They do things that are a little left of center, and that was one of the biggest things, was helping these people that have in-person practices
Mm,
one-on-one scale to online, and do the energy work still online. So it was a little bit of a shift for a lot of people. But once they got they moved like lightning. Yeah, because energy is energy. It doesn't matter where you are. And Zoom now, it feels like as if we're just next door, doesn't it?
mm, mm. The energy is an interesting thing on the internet. And when we went into the pandemic, it shocked me how powerful it was. I had been doing live events since 2014, teaching timeline therapy and NLP and hypnosis. And I remember one of the first events, it was in the basement of an RSL club. And we went down to the basement, there was no windows, and we started the training and we did our first induction. And as I did our first induction, I could hear this hissing sound, and it was like a water pipe had burst. Everybody's eyes are closed, and I'm looking around, I'm trying to figure out where this hissing sound has come from. But people could hear it, and they thought it was part of the hypnotic induction. And so they kept going deeper and deeper. And then I figured it out that there was a post mix machine in the bar in the back of the room. And the pipe had exploded. So it started to squirt water into the people in the training room. And so they're thinking those little droplets of water are from the hypnotic induction. And so I knew energy was powerful in a room. And I said to the the people at the RSL club, I said, look, got to ask a question. This room that you've put us in, it's in the basement. Audio's great, video's great, but it's creepy. And they're like, really? And I said, yeah, it's really creepy. I didn't know what to say. And they said, well, maybe it was because of the event that was here yesterday. I said, well, what was the event yesterday? They said, oh, they had a wake here yesterday. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, the spirits are still in the room. And you could feel it was such a bizarre thing. And so I knew it physically and in person, but the internet during the pandemic, I would have 500 people in my training, and we would get to the same section on a Saturday, and it was always 2 p.m. And we were doing an NLP anchoring induction. And every day at 2 p.m., the energy that came through the computer was so strong that my screen would black out, my camera would black out, and my computer would crash. And I'd done this event 6 times in a row and just kept crashing at the exact same spot. And I rang my business partner and I said, what's going on? He said, you don't realize that energy is magnified through the internet. I said, really? He said, you've got 500 people projecting energy back towards you. He said, that's why your stuff's short circuiting. And so I did a test and I removed that exercise and nothing crashed. I put it back in, everything crashed. I'm on the same camera, the same computer, the same microphone today, no crash. But the energy online, wow, that's wild.
It's energy. Energy is energy. It doesn't matter where in the universe you are. I love it.
Mm,
Yeah. So that's a lot of the work that I do is work with people that have absolutely genius at what it is that they do, like genius level. But the challenge is that the work that they do is so profound that and they're at chapter 20,
mm,
that it's a challenge for them to actually convey this genius to the people that actually need their help.
mm,
There's a huge gap between where they are chapter 20 and where their audience is at chapter 1.
Mm,
And yeah, I love it. So I get to hear and work with people that are next level amazing at the brilliance that they bring to this planet, and help them basically unpack that and showcase it. So I make their brilliance visible
mm,
by creating visual models that explain the process, explain the journey, explain the things you need to go on the journey, and explain the outcomes.
mm,
So, yeah, and the COVID was the tipping point for me because before that, I was working in person with people, which was great, but it meant there were only people that were in the proximity of Adelaide.
mm,
And for me, COVID opened up the doors to transition to doing delivery online. And the things that we used to do in person, post-it notes and all of those things, we now use a variety of different applications that help us do exactly the same thing, but even better because we can capture things, we can keep them longer, we can translate better. So, yeah, AI and technology is our best friend. Uh, but sometimes I notice that, particularly with practitioners, they're a little resistant to stepping into what's possible. Could be a
mm,
fear thing, and they don't want to lose their magic, their voice through the process. Have you found the same thing, Daniel, with your audience, the people that you assist with this, looking at technology?
mm. If I go back to my live events, I would have exhausted myself preparing for the customer experience. And I would get the best room other than the one at the RSL club. I'd get the best 5-star hotel I could find. I would get the premium linen. I'd get the premium paper. I'd have all of my banners printed on UV resistant printed vinyl. And the customer experience was out of this world. And I'd exhaust myself to perfection. And then I realized I never got a compliment on the linen. I never got a compliment on the Larev uh, fragrant oils in the back of the room. Nobody ever complimented me on my $5 highlighter instead of the dollar one. And so I realized that I was putting a lot of effort in to things that weren't all that important. And so I stripped them away, and that made me feel a lot better. And so that was in the early days of events. But the second thing that was really frustrating was I was running events in the United Kingdom. So I'm in Taiwan, I'm going to Australia to deliver events, and the cost of travel was insane. It was the cost of the flights and the hotels, but it was the cost on health and the cost on life. I would miss a month of my family. And I remember going to the UK and we would sell out an event. And then, because I didn't know enough about events, is half the people don't show up. So you get there and you've got 25 people in a room, and the other 25 people are saying, "Can I come to the next event?" It's like, well, you should be here. So now I've got to fly back and the cost is doubled. And then you get to the next one, you sell it out again. And then 25 people say, I can't make it. So that was really frustrating for me pre pandemic. But going online, I saved a bunch of time because I used to draw all my posters on butcher paper. I used to roll them up. I used to stick them up on the wall, and everything was one time. So it took me hours to prepare all of that because they were visual models. But doing it online, I could scale and I could replicate it. I could have 500 people in my training room rather than 25. And they could join anywhere in the world. They could come from Australia at the same time. They could come from Malaysia or Taiwan or Thailand, but I could scale it. And with the introduction of really good technology, I think it was more interactive. You could bring the
Oh,
sound, you could bring the speech, you could bring the pictures.
on every level, and you can master the interaction, the music in the background, the
Mm,
opportunities for people to have quiet reflection. Like everything that you can do in person, you can do online for events, and helping my clients see that they can run a front end of funnel the same
mm,
and connect with people, use the visual models, either draw them or use them on a PowerPoint to take people through the process, and then usher them to the next level. Press the button to buy this, or for the higher level, it's usually a conversation. Yeah,
mm,
especially because they're almost vetting the people that
mm,
they want to work with. So, yeah, it's been a big shift, but it all started with visual models. And for me, it was when I decided I was going to become a speaker and talk about mind shift, the future of mindset, the five steps to momentum. I wasn't getting any traction. I was getting RSL bookings. I was getting the free stuff. That wasn't a
The old
problem.
people's homes,
Yeah, people's homes, exactly.
Rotary, Lions.
Yes, all of that was easy to come by. Even running my own events and filling up the room, that was hard work, but it
Mm,
was still making an income and getting the message across to help people shift the way that they think. It wasn't until 2017 that I unpacked what it is that I do into visual models. And then the very next speaking gig was paid on a big stage. And then it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, as a speaker, as someone who's got a message to share, I saw the power in using visual models to convey the genius in a way that people can understand it. So, language, they're not listening to us, they're watching us.
mm,
So it just made sense. And so for me personally, as a speaker, to really have that experience and understand, wow, took me from here to here very, very quickly. And then when COVID happened, I'm like, okay, all the speaking gigs have gone in a hot minute. They were there, now they're gone.
mm,
It all took 2 weeks for the diary to be cleaned, but I had a skill set of speaking to camera, which I'd been doing for quite a long time, and facilitating for more than 30 years, and also this magic of models, and put that together. And so from 2020, I've been helping other practitioners step into using visual models to explain their genius. And yeah, haven't looked back. I love I love it because it gives me the opportunity to ask questions and see people's genius and literally hold a mirror up for them so they can see, because it lives inside their head.
mm,
And they need to extract that and get the language out and then get the models out of that. So it's been a very rewarding process holding this space to, yeah, create expert authority for people.
mm.
Mm.
And we have to make the invisible visible. That's our job as the communicator. And my personal belief, and you come from a family of faith, is a lot of people aren't people of faith. People don't believe in the invisible, they believe what they can see. People will tell you they have faith, but if you ask them to back the house, to bet the business on it, they won't do it. But if they can see it in black and white or color, then they'll back it. And that's our job as coaches and consultants, is to make it visible for the other person. And I learned in consulting many years ago is that the best consultants on the planet are doctors. And doctors do three things. They do an examination, they do a diagnosis, and then they offer a prescription. And it's in the diagnosis that they make the invisible visible. They send you to pathology. If somebody says you've got a blood disease, I believe I've got blood, but I can't see it. How do I know? But when the test results come back and they show the bacteria or whatever it is, the virus in the blood, you believe it. When the doctor sends you for an x ray and you can see swelling on the lungs or you can see a broken bone, now you believe it. When you go for an MRI and they come back and they show you the imaging on the computer, now you believe it. But before, you were still in that state of shock, in that state of disbelief. But that visual model takes you from curious to convinced almost instantaneously.
Absolutely, Daniel. And it's because the human brain, 50% of it's wired for visual.
Mm,
It's how we are. And
mm,
I also noticed that since we've shifted through COVID, is that now we've got international audiences. Language is, it's a thing, because how we say it here in Adelaide is not even the same way they say it in Sydney,
mm,
and especially if we're talking country to country. So what
mm,
I've also noticed, especially for my clients that are now scaling for global domination, the visual models help them get the message across, even if it's not even the same language. So it might be their fifth language, yeah, but it makes a difference. It cuts through. And also, what I noticed too is people remember it.
Mm.
So we can say something, and then, you and I will forget parts of this conversation. We won't forget how we feel, but we'll forget parts of the conversation. But when there's visuals involved, we'll remember those differently.
The visuals are so universal. And when we created the user experience for our technology, I said to my team of scientists, I said, anybody should be able to look at this particular report and just by looking at the colors, know if they're healthy or not. And they said, how would we do that? And I said, well, when you're driving in Malaysia, when you're driving in America, and you see a red light, what do? They said, stop. And I said, good. So anything that's really bad, it's going to be red. And I said, well, in your country, when you're sitting at the lights and the light goes green, what do? They say, we go. And I said, good. Well, everything that's good and healthy, it's going to be marked in green. And they said, well, what about orange? I said, well, orange is interesting because orange is the danger zone. A light can turn orange and you can pass through safely. But a light can turn orange and it can also represent impending doom and danger. And so you could run the light, but you also run the risk. So when we made our technology more visually appealing, anybody with an untrained eye would automatically go to the red and go, I've got to fix that. The green ones, they're like, yes, I'm healthy. And then the orange, they say, what's going to happen there? And I said, well, that's where we're going to do the healing, right in that orange zone there. Now they get it. But it
Uh,
was that
uh,
universal coloring, the visual, because in my opinion, we heal at the speed of sound, but we live at the speed of light. We open our eyes and everything just goes boom
oh,
before
that's
you can even
close.
think.
I say we heal at the speed of love.
True.
Yes, yes. After my own personal tragedy, that it was that instant, that was that forgiveness that was instant, that then helped me heal at the speed of love. So yeah, the letting go. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was the incident?
Okay, I didn't know we were going to go there, but 2000 and 2011, my beautiful boy, my 17-year-old beautiful boy, 1 week off his 18th birthday, made the decision to take his own life. And so that was for me a turning point, and that night, I, as a woman of faith, I was praying, that the ambulance would be able to revive him. I wasn't able to. And I got an answer to my prayer. It wasn't the answer I was expecting. And the answer was very loud. I thought everyone could hear it. Clearly not, it was only meant for me. The word was forgive. So when the ambulance officer said, do you want to come inside and say goodbye? I did. And 6 foot, almost 6'3", big boy. He was lying on the ground, and I cuddled up next to him, put my head on his chest, and I said, Mummy loves you, and I forgive you for your choice. And what I didn't understand until much later when I'd unpacked it is, by forgiving him, I was now healing at the speed of love.
Mm.
And really, it was a if I was standing out and watching all of this, what I would have noticed is that I became the person that helped everyone else around me, because I was already in that space of healing, and it enabled me to help others. And that's where the shift process was born, the 5 steps to mind shift, basically. And that's what and it wasn't until I unpacked it, when I made the visual models, that I unpacked it completely, that it enabled me to walk away from the life that I'd lived before. But it took that for me to wake up. So previous to that, Daniel, I was an alcoholic, had been for 30 years, OCD to the point of self harm, ADHD to the point of total distraction, really overweight, like an extra 25 kilos. And I was not a healthy person on any level. Oh, I forgot to mention, I was a hoarder. Like, we're not talking itty bitty hoarder, we're talking 33 cubic meters of stuff. So
Wow.
it was that night that began the transition, and it started with forgiveness. Yeah.
Mm. What an incredible story.
Thank you. That's the story that lies underneath the shift process. And once I was able to help myself and help the people around me, then I noticed I was helping businesses, and it just went from there. So that's how mind shift was born. So instead of a mindset specialist, I became a mind shift specialist and help people shift their thinking.
Mm. And I think for a lot of people getting into the healing space, they all have a story. And there's a reason. The reason why I got into my business was my wife had an accident on an aircraft, and she went through PTSD, and she went through three major knee surgeries, and she got to the stage where she wanted to end her life because of the physical pain, but also the emotional pain. And it was at the end of my career that I had to choose love of family or love of career. And I had to walk away from a team. I was co leading a team at Emirates Airline of 17,500 cabin crew. So every flight, I get 17 new crew, I'd get 400 new customers. But I had to make the choice, do I do another flight or do I go to Taiwan for the birth of my daughter? And that's when I started my business. I had to walk away from my career, but we'd also gone through that mental health problems and challenges as a family already. And that's how I get there. But I think all healers have a similar story. There's been an event and it's changed their direction really quick.
Yeah, on every level. And then I find that when I'm unpacking people's models, going through the process of that extraction, is that at the base of it, there's always a story, and it might even not be a story that they are cognitive of. They might not even, it might not even be conscious, or it is, but they think it's so small or so not connected that they
Mm,
can't see. It's like they can't see the trees for the forest, and
mm,
it's having someone else sit there, ask the questions, reflect back, and build that they're like, there's so many, oh, aha, ah, so many moments during the process. And then what I notice is once they've finished, is they've got a level of clarity that was already there, but now they can articulate it, and now they
mm,
can show other people the process because they're walking them through the model. Yeah.
mm. One question, if I may. When you said to your son, Mummy forgives you, did you speak those words out loud?
Oh, yeah. I was the only person in the room.
Mhm.
Yeah. And yeah, yeah, out loud.
What's interesting about this, and this is something that I think a lot of us don't know, but we can learn over time, is that hearing is one of the first senses developed uh, when the baby's in utero, and that sense of sound is developed in the first 9 to 12 weeks of gestation. So the baby in utero can hear the mother's and the father's voice. So it's the first sense to develop, but it's also the last sense to leave the body at death. So the reason why I asked is that even after the time of passing, the body is still processing sound. So what a lovely departing word for your boy.
Yeah. I It took a lot longer for me to forgive myself than
Mm,
it was for him. But yeah, I like to think. And I also, strangely enough, think I felt his final thoughts as well. When I unpacked it for the book, there was a moment in time where we were driving home from a birthday party on that night, and I saw an ambulance like in my brain. And so I thought it was just me going, oh, I've got to make sure we've got our ambulance cover up to date before his 18th birthday because you never know. But it was his final thoughts thinking, oh no, mum's going to have to call an ambulance,
mm,
because there had been an incident 6 months before when he played rugby that we had to get an ambulance and we didn't have the level of coverage we needed, and it cost $700 or $800, and
mm,
I wasn't really happy about it. Yeah, so isn't it absolutely fascinating what we can pick up, and that is energy. And if when we're in a different space and we're grounded and we don't judge it, we just are open to it. I believe every human has the capacity to connect
mm,
on every level.
mm. We can sense energy, person to person. We can absolutely do it. What tends to happen is because it's more intuitive, the logic left brain gets in and says, "Oh, this is not real. It's just in your imagination." No, it was a feeling. It's a sense. And with our technology, we can measure people's personal frequency through the sound of their voice. And voice is as rich in information as DNA. So things like critical heart failure can show up in somebody's voice 7 to 21 days before a heart attack occurs. Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease shows up in the voice 10 to 20 years before it manifests in the body. And
Wow.
when it comes to mental health, what I had my scientist engineer for me was the ability to detect self harm and suicidality through the voice. And the reason why that was important was because of what we went through as a family when my wife had PTSD. But also in Taiwan, self harm is 14 times more common than suicide attempts. And suicide is the biggest cause of death for our teens here in Taiwan. So I said to our scientist and engineer, I said, I want you to be able to detect this in the voice. And we could discover 25 different brainwave frequencies that are out of balance. And in a 90-second voice analysis, we can detect people who are at moderate or high risk for self harm. And then we can perform an intervention. So we're doing that with our technology. But even people like Qantas, they're now using similar vocal biomarker technology with their cabin crew and their flight deck. And they're analyzing their voice and they're checking on their mental health status
I love
because
it.
obviously they don't want pilots flying if they have a diagnosed mental disease that could lead to self harm. And this is being deployed around the world. Hospitals are using it. TSA in America are using it. Amazon are using it. Um, Facebook, they have the ability to use this. We can detect mental health issues in a 4 to 7 second voice sample. And
Wow.
so these personal reasons for you and I, the reasons why we do what we do, we end up building these technologies to firstly solve our own problems and then go, oh wow, this is really good. Others should have it too.
Yep. Yep. That's how it's born. Is
Mm,
I love it. This is I love it. I want to know more. Tell me everything.
mm.
Don't miss out a thing.
But I think with healers around the world, the illusion today is Facebook. And Facebook and Instagram, we have highlights, and it encourages people to only show the good, to show the things that are going right. It's that 1 second of joy in your day. And as a society, we share the highlights, but there's no lowlights on social media. And so it's very easy to look at a business person or a successful person and think that there's nothing going on in the background, but they're struggling with the same things. They got the same challenges. And healers today, it doesn't matter what modality they have, it's important. Everybody needs to heal. A car needs a mechanic, a house needs a builder. We need psychologists, we need counselors, we need energetic workers. Because if we're not balanced, it's very hard to succeed. It's like pushing shit uphill.
I I hear you. I do believe that we're in this era of healers. Yes, and I see a time when we will be healing ourselves. So yes, we need everything now, but in the future, I feel that we'll be self-healing.
We're all of us self heal.
Yes, we
It's the
do
healer
because
who activates the
yes,
self healing ability within the
yes,
individual because everything we need to heal is within us,
yes,
but we need it activated. It's like a
yes.
brain surgeon. You can be Adelaide's best brain surgeon, but you can't operate on yourself. It's like a lawyer. They say a lawyer who represents himself in court has an idiot as a client. So even the best healer needs to be healed. When I was in real estate, I asked my boss, I said, who's coaching you? And he looked at me as if I was from another planet. I said, look, you're helping me succeed, but who's helping you? And he had a lot of problems. And I was like, dude, you need some help as well. And it's okay to go and ask for help, because the better you are, the better I'm going to be, because I'm going to be your reflection, but you've got to do better. You can't be, it's like the law of the lid in leadership. The leader is the cap on the team. So the leader's got to constantly get better for the team to grow. And when he went and had coaching, the whole business transformed.
I love it.
So we
Love
can
it.
heal, but we need it to be activated, because we're too associated into our own problems. We're part of the problem. And so we need somebody external to press the right buttons, but in the right order and
Yes.
sequence. And that's what healers know. They know how to activate this in the body.
And as a business strategist, exactly, it has to be extracted and it needs to be done in the right order.
Mm,
So, and sometimes it's counterintuitive. We have to go backwards to go forwards.
mm,
So, and I think that might be some of the reason why people struggle to move from one to one to one to many,
mm,
because there's not a lack of information out there, but it needs to be sequenced.
mm,
And not everything needs to be done by you. A lot of it can actually be done by other people.
mm.
And a lot of the people that I notice trying to do all of the things themselves or outsourcing it to the wrong people because they don't have the right questions to ask. Yeah.
Mm. You've got to know the questions. It's like Chat GPT. It's powerful. Perplexity is powerful. But if you don't ask it the right questions, you'll never get the resources out of it.
Yes.
You've still got to
Exactly.
know how it operates. It's like in my business, a lot of people who could be great consultants could do what I do. Excuse me, Murray. I got my golden retriever a toy piece of timber the other day, and he drops it on the floor, and it's like a hammer. People could do what I do, and they got far superior knowledge, but they don't know how to package it. They don't know
Yes.
how to present it,
Yes.
and that's key as
Exactly.
well. And
Exactly.
not every. It's like many years ago, one of my clients said to me, he said, Daniel, I want to read this book. He said, but I don't have 30 hours to read the book. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, I want you to read it and then to explain the book to me in an hour. And so my consulting rate's 750 an hour. And I said, well, that's okay for me. So I read the book. I read it really quickly, and I took everything that he needed and I left all the stuff that he didn't need. And I repeated it back to him. And he said, that was the best hour ever. And he went and executed on all the information. But it was about packaging it, because the book
Yes.
put all the content into one place, but it wasn't usable for him.
Yes.
He
Yes.
needed to know just key components and then how to apply it.
Yes.
And years ago, I was trained by Brian Tracy, great author, and he was my mentor for many years. And he said to me one day, he said, Daniel, why is the book $11? And I said, the paper? And he laughed. He said, no, it's $11 because you've got to figure out how to apply it. And he said, why is the consulting $2,500 per hour? I said, I don't know. He said, because I'm going to teach you how to apply it. He said, the money is made in the application. It's
Yes.
not in the transfer of the knowledge. He said that the transfer of the knowledge is cheap. That's why books are cheap, because you still got to figure it out.
Yes, it's true. The implementation as well. I notice that people can do the training course, but it's the implementation that it really is the tipping point. And that's why I've noticed that a lot of leverage has been gained by doing blended learning programs. So, not just straight out online courses, but an opportunity for people to experience that, but at the same time have that implementation and
Mm,
someone to hold them accountable for the outcome.
mm,
So I've noticed that's where the biggest leverage has been for my clients is has running these group blended programs.
mm. In Taiwan, what's really important in my wife's program, she's a master of psychology. She teaches at one of our technologies, and we call it Mind Report. In Mind Report, we're detecting just four things. Number one, we're looking at people's stress type. Now, everybody experiences stress, but not everybody knows what their stress type is. And if you're trying to solve the wrong stressor, you'll still have the stress. So we show them this is what stresses you, solve that. We also look at Enneagram personality. And when it comes to self healing, everybody's personality is different. We all have different wants and needs and emotions and fears. And some people say, I have no shame. Well, you don't based on your personality, but you'll have this particular fear. And if you can solve that, then you'll get ahead. And then the third thing we look at is we look at the seven energy centers in the body. So we have seven chakras, seven energy centers. And based on the level of these energy centers, will determine our physical, emotional, mental, and our spiritual health. And so we can have a look at people's chakras using scientific methods and understand where the energetic blocks are. So we can give them a one-page report that shows all of this, but they don't know how to apply it.
Mm.
And where we see the value in the blended learning now is that 80% of the people will come to the training and they just love to learn. That's it. They actually don't want to implement. And us in our healer's brain, we're like, you don't want to implement? You're crazy. But they just want to learn. They're like, oh, wow, I discovered the root cause is this. But they don't always want to fix it. And that's something that as healers, we're going to understand that not everybody wants to go to that level of healing, but they're happy to have the detection or the diagnosis. But what we're finding is with about 20% of the people, what's really important for them is that they want personal care. And so we offer them the opportunity to have a one-to-one session with Ninny. They do it before the training. 28 days later, they come back, they do the diagnostic again, and they have another session. And it's interpreted and broken down into three steps. Do step one, two, and three. And we're seeing that here in Taiwan becoming more important.
Mm.
It's the group work. And then on the one to one session, it's getting into all the personal things that they don't want to share publicly. Kind of like your story before. Everybody has a story, but they don't always want to share it publicly.
Mm.
But they want to share it so they can get it off the chest and move forward, to get it off the heart and move forward.
Yes, I love it.
And we're finding
This
that
is
that's really important.
such a beautiful conversation. I need to know more about your tool on every level. I can see how that could be a really good fit for a lot of my clients who don't necessarily have an assessment tool that can be used online. They have got
Mm,
them in person, but are unable to transfer them to an
mm,
online environment. So I can see how that could be a very valuable assessment tool. And I love the fact that you really get visual models and you use them in your own training and you understand the power that they are. I think the point of difference with what I bring with visual models and my people is that they're bespoke.
mm,
They're just for them. So they are branded uniquely to what it is that they bring. It also makes it easier to trademark them, license them. And in this world where people are busy copying everything you do and shoving it into AI and recreating it,
mm.
it means that you've got that level of security to be able to live at scale and be sharing everything all over the world
Yep,
and know that you're protected. Yeah.
yep. It's got to be individualized. Patients today want individual service and treatment from their provider. It's so important. Even the foundation of holistic health, they say in healing today that the best way to heal is to have both patient and provider interaction. So, what we train is we teach doctors to take this diagnostic, show it to your customer or your patient, and have them be the teacher and you be the student. And it's amazing what doctors learn when a patient interprets their own results because
Mm.
the patient also understands the bidirectional nature of this. Okay, so what's happening with your sleep? How does it connect to this particular emotion? How does it how does it connect to this level of mood or depression? Now, the patient is doing this problem 24 hours a day. They're the expert. And so when patient and provider can both look at the results, then they can craft an individualized plan to move forward. But it's got to be visual, like you're saying
Absolutely.
here. You've got to
Hyper
make the invisible visible.
personalization. Hyper personalization. It is the thing that's going to cut through this this world that we live in now with AI post COVID. is hyper personalized emails, hyper personalized communication. This is why the voice message is working so well. On every level, people are looking for hyper personalization. Yep, I love it.
We love Louis Vuitton here in Taiwan, and we got Louis Vuitton everywhere. These big stores, and they're amazing. And I was there the other day, and it was interesting because in each of these Louis Vuitton stores, you can have all of your product personalized, and people are lining up with these $5,000 and $10,000 handbags, having them personalized. And so they even do it in store. So if you look at Louis Vuitton, you go, they're doing hyper personalization on a $5,000 or $10,000 product. You should be as well,
Yeah,
because they're studying the market. They're working with people globally. And if they're doing that on a local store scale, it tells you that there's a bigger picture there, because they
absolutely.
wouldn't be doing it if their millions of customers didn't want it. And
Yeah,
it's simple. It could just be in Taiwan, you might get a passport holder. And so a lot of people might not understand the importance of designer bags, but here in Taiwan, you might not flex your house, where Aussies might flex the house. We don't flex cars here, but we flex having a driver. It's a very different approach. But also for men, what's really important is to make sure that their wife or their daughter has a designer handbag, because it makes the man feel good. So to go in there and have that hyper personalization with just one letter on there, it stands out. The other thing that Taiwanese do differently is they might not flex their house, but what they'll do is they'll flex the amount of shares they have in Taiwan Semiconductor. So on Facebook, they'll show these stacks of paper of all of these shares they own in TSMC with their name on it.
I love it. I love it on every level. Oh, this has been a fantastic conversation.
Thanks, Charlene. Where
And
can we find out more about what you do?
yeah, so I run a masterclass to help people unpack their own visual models. It's only 90 minutes. It's free. It's called Expert Authority. The links are always on my link tree, but they're also on the landing pages. So yeah, all you need to do is just Google my name, Sharlene Lynch, Expert Authority, and it will come up everywhere. And at that masterclass, it's they're smaller groups. It gives us an opportunity for you to share with me where it is that you are and how you deliver. And then I can take you through the process of what it would look like for you to build your own visual models that convert, basically, that make it easier for other people to understand the genius that you bring. Because the bottom line is, you have got this. You were born this way. You've got the information inside of you. It just needs to be extracted and put into pretty models.
And at the end of the day, it's the conversion. It's got to convert. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's got to convert. And in business, without sales, business fails. And you've got to be a healer, and you've got to get paid handsomely for what you do. Helping people is a very expensive business, and you've got to learn to convert. And so those visual models enable you to convert quickly. You don't want a long, slow sales cycle. It used to take me 6 weeks to close a sale. Then it got down to 6 days and 6 hours and 60 minutes. And then with good models, 6 minute sales. No follow up, no calling. Charlene, just following up. None of that. Thanks, Charlene. Thanks for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.